Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness with your luscious hostess, Mai V, broadcasting live every Monday at 12 noon Pacific Time.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Sex, Lies, and Consciousness. Today's topic is monogamy. Does monogamy equal monotony? Discovering how committed monogamy is more adventurous and fulfilling than an open relationship. I have with me today my friends Eka Jyoti and Zoe Wild. They are both they're engaged to be married to each other, and they are committed to finding adventures and fulfillment in their monogamous relationship, and they're going to be here to banter around with me on this topic. Now, before I bring them on, I have to admit a few things. This topic is really charged for me. I have been on both sides of the fence and been in committed monogamous marriage. Then I broke that, and I explored open relationship, and now I'm back in a committed monogamous relationship, whom I love and cherish. And yet, I'm not settled with this conversation. There's still a lot of confusion, judgment, doubt, yeah, but, what if, really, is it possible, all this questioning. And where does my freedom go, and all the stuff that it's in there for me. And so I had warned Eka and Zoe that I may be sounding like I'm attacking you, or that I'm butting you or challenging where you guys are coming from, but I'm not. I'm actually trying to be really real and honest about this challenge of how do you make a monogamous relationship thrilling, adventurous and adventuresome, and fresh and new, for decades to come, in the midst of children and life happens and everything else that's out there. So anyway, if you hear my frustration or cynicism or doubts or whatever, it's not that I'm challenging this. It's just more like I really do want this to happen, both for myself and for my clients who I work with, and they struggle with this all the time. And what are some answers that we could have for ourselves? So join me for the conversation. The number to call in is 646-200-0813. 646-200-0813. I'm going to reserve the first 30 minutes to hang with Eka and Zoe, and then I'll open the line to include your voice and your story around 12:30 Pacific time. All right? Eka and Zoe, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be here.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm so thrilled that you're here. You both are just amazing people with really powerful spirit and energy. So I can't wait until you talk more so that the audience can really get a feel of you.
Sure.
Let's start with your name. Your name is Eka, E-K-A, and then Jyoti, J-O-T-I. Tell us what that means first.
It's the literal translation is the light of oneness, and I was given that name some time back by one of my teachers, a Buddhist meditation master, about 80 years, I think he was 82 at that time, and amazing guy, very, very wonderful, sweet man, and I think that's really interesting that you start with that. I wasn't anticipating that, but the reason that the light of oneness, it's not like I'm the light of oneness, but there's some sort of something magical, something really alive that is moving through all of this, even through the vacuum of space and through objects and through people and through sound and interactions. And I think that's actually a really great foundation that for me in relationship, of course there's this person, Zoe, she has her history, her life, but the thing that I anchor into and that I can come back to no matter what is happening with Zoe or happening with Eka is that there's this light that's shining through her. There's something so mysterious and so like I can't even put words to it really. I try, but I can't really get it. And that thing is it's that light of oneness for to say it in one way. And when I can connect with that, man, I have to say a lot of the stuff that seems so heavy takes a different perspective. So I appreciate you asking about that, actually. That's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you explaining that, because even just that, I feel really moved by it. I'm like, oh, wow, I really hunger to feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it really, it's like, it stopped being about you, but it's like, I just feel like your name just reminds me to look for the light of oneness in every situation.
Right, that's what it does for me. It's just didactic. It's to help me really remember. So I appreciate it.
Got it. Thank you. And Zoe Wild, I've always been jealous of your name. Like, who gets lucky to have Zoe Wild in name, you know? I thought I saw somewhere on your website or something that like another version of your name. Are you changing your name to something else?
I'm not planning on changing my name. For me, it's funny that we're just talking about this and the light of oneness. For me, I've gone through an evolution with the last name Wild, which is my given last name. Mm-hmm. And I used to, when I was younger, I was really crazy. So I was like, yeah, Zoe Wild, you know?
Yeah.
But as I changed and transformed and grew as a spiritual being and groundedness and consciousness, I went through this sort of crisis around it. Like, is that really my name? You know, does that fit anymore? I remember a teacher in Burma saying, you know, wild, isn't that bad? Isn't that the opposite of peace?
Mm.
And so for a while I wasn't sure if I would keep it. And then in meditation one day, I was actually doing walking meditation outside during a long retreat, and it just hit me so deeply in my core that wild to me really means our pure nature, which is this one light. It's our natural essence. You know, nature is wild.
Yeah.
And that's just deepened and deepened and deepened for me, and that's something so close to my heart. And like Eka was saying, it returns me. And actually, Zoe is the Greek word for life.
Mm.
So it's sort of this free, natural life, you know, without ego, without all of these concepts on it, about who I am and how things should be. So it's funny, I haven't thought about it before, but it's almost like, in a way, we have the same name.
And we definitely try to bring wildness, we try to hold a real space for that in our relationship, which I'm happy to talk about later as well.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, well, gosh, we wouldn't want to get rid of that wild thing, because that's part of the creating the aliveness in the. I have to warn you guys, because I do have a thing on this monogamous and monotony, so I tend to like those two words up a lot of times too. So I would almost in this monotonous relationship.
Right.
Literally or theoretically.
I know. I don't think I've gone past Freudian slip. It's really clearly it's a May slip.
Right.
Anyway, well, tell us a little bit about who you are together, like what your relationship is like, and where you came from in terms of relationships, so that we can just have a sense of who you are as a couple and what you're up to.
Wow. Yeah,
that's such a big question. Let me break it down. How long have you been dating, and when are you getting married? Let's start there.
Oh, yeah, the logistics. We've been dating for I think we have a few different dates of like when we started, because we were apart and we were together, we were living in different places. But in general, Thanksgiving of 2 years ago, that's right, Zoe, right?
I think so. Thanksgiving 2009.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly.
When
and
we really
we're getting married.
Decided to jump in.
Yeah. And then marriage is coming August 5th. So we gave ourselves, we've been engaged for a while as well, and we wanted to let that
July 10th.
Really, what's that?
Since July 10th, since your birthday.
Right. And so this, we really wanted to just, and I think that was a lot around just wanting that time to really mature into this and not have it be impulsive or something like this. And so yeah, that's when it's coming.
How fun! So you've been together for 2 years, and then you're getting married in August.
Correct.
Okay. And so do you want to add something to that?
I could add a lot. It sort of depends what you're looking for. But I think it was really important to us. We got engaged so early on in our relationship to just have a long engagement. And part of that really was related to what we're talking about today. We wanted to be really sure. We didn't want to take this lightly. We wanted to have the time where we could say to the universe, look, we are totally committed to this, but still, we didn't feel a need to rush into it.
Right.
So I just really appreciated having that time.
So then let's see. So and Eka, you used to be in open relationships and that kind of stuff, and now you're choosing to do the committed monogamous relationship route.
Correct. And actually, I started off with very devoted, committed monogamous relationships at the beginning, and really did that pretty deeply. I certainly have a hopeless romantic side of me, and I have like Cancerian qualities, and very much like about home and connection and all of that stuff, and so it just really made sense for me, and there was a lot that ended up in kind of in flames from those places, and really I created a lot of pain in this person's life, in the person I held most dearly, and those were like some of my first big wake-up calls, way before I was considering like spiritual wake-up calls. And so that made me really step back. I actually took about 1.5 years of, we could call it outward celibacy. Like I was very purposefully not dating. And this was in college actually as well, a place where like it's actually pretty easy to do that kind of thing, casual dating. And because I really wanted to figure out what the hell was going on and why I was hurting this beloved person so basically all the time. And then I started to date again and really wanted to let myself be as open and free as possible to really understand the full spectrum. And that's when I was in, I wouldn't call them like polyamorous or polygamous relationships. It was more that I don't know exactly how to say it, but it's not like here in the Bay Area where there's like very developed communities around polyamory or just open relationships. But I would say one of the things was that I wasn't so interested in going very deep with any one person. That was one thing that marked my time doing that. And the other thing is that I can say this now in retrospect, I wasn't really clear about why I wanted to be in relationship, what the ultimate reason for that was. And that was a part of shopping around like that. I really wanted to get a lot of experience. It's strange. The same thing happened to me with spiritual paths as well. Like I just wanted to really get a sense of all of these different flavors that were out there before I decided to choose something, because I knew that I wanted to have a choice that was real and deep and born out of my own experience, as opposed to just going like, oh, this is what people are doing, so this is what I should do. And so it was very much a period, a few years of being in that mode, but I would have to say that I was always able to dance away from the flame when it got too close. And I don't know if your listeners understand what I'm saying there, or if you do, but I think you do. And for me, this was really like, because the ante was not high, I had not invested a lot, I was able to, at any point that the relationship brought me too close to myself and too close to painful parts of myself, I could just dance away. I could just kind of shift gears, switch tracks. And so this resulted in a lot of great experiences, a lot of pleasurable experiences and fun experiences, and I really appreciate that I did all of that. But in this relationship with Zoe, I've been able to go so much deeper in a very short period of time because of the commitment. And I just want to say, I invite couples that are together and committed, and also people that are just going through this on their own and starting to figure this out for themselves, a partnership in whatever way. What is it that you're in this for? At the core, okay, maybe there's pleasure, maybe there's security, comfort, even the kind of like romantic love that we could talk about, but at the core, what is this all about? And once that kind of touchstone is there, then everything is kind of moving relationally around that. And what I want to share is that, I'll say this in my words, maybe Zoe can say it in hers, that my real touchstone here in this relationship is that at the end of the day, this is about me being free, like experiencing my freedom. And so everything else kind of is moving in relation to that. Does that make sense?
It totally does, and I want to just like slow you down and pull this point apart and just like dive into it for a few moments here. When you say at the core of it, what is this about for me to be in this relationship? And I tell you, it's just kind of like a big old gong that, you know, cuts through so many layers for me, because I'm just like, I looked back as a child, and then as a teenager dreaming about being married, being in a committed relationship, or as someone in her 20s looking for a potential mate. You know, I didn't know to ask that question. I think at that time I just kind of stopped at, well, I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's why we get into a relationship, right? Because I don't want to be alone, because that means that I am less than of a woman, that I can't get a man, because that would mean that who's going to take care of me if I don't have a job? It's just like, it's a very, it's like, it's a duh moment for me, you know? I'm like, duh, hello.
Yeah. And I know that you know the law of attraction or the art of manifestation, that the state that we create something in, like the state that I just like what I'm feeling in that moment and what I'm really believing, and then I choose to act from that place, all of a sudden that whole action and the result of it really kind of has the stamp of that initial state. So when I when I try to make a business endeavor from a place of fear and scarcity, it's like, come on, it's just going to slap me in the face. And it's not like about you. Actually, I don't think we have good models for how to go about relationship. We have our parents, which generally it's not so good, and the society around us, which is not really teaching us much about that deeper level of asking in. And I just really appreciate the vulnerability that you're speaking from, of like, I kind of created this idea from fear. And for myself, I actually had a real, like you were dreaming about being married, I was dreaming about being a monk in Thailand or somewhere like this, and was very close to going. And I think that part of that for me was the fear of giving away my control, giving away my freedom or autonomy, having to like basically, you know, dealing with my own crazy shit and you know, idiosyncrasies and neuroses is hard enough, let alone someone else's, and all of this. So I just wanted out. I didn't even want to deal with that. So I can really relate in my own way to what you're saying.
Yeah, Zoe, let's make some room for you here, because I can see I can go at this for a while. What do you want to say?
What?
Do you have anything you want to add to it before we keep going?
Oh, do you have a specific question? Because there are so many different directions I feel like I could go in. I mean, I definitely second everything Ekka's saying.
Let me ask you that question, you know, because like that's what Ekka said, you know, for him, he asked the question, what's it at the core for me? I'm like, well, you're a girl. You look very similar to me, you know. Like, were you trained to go? I mean, I hear my daughter, I have a daughter who's 10, and I hear her talk about her friends and what they think and what they talk about at the playground. And, you know, these girls are walking around going, when I grow up, I'm going to marry an old guy so that when he dies, I take all his money. I'm like, where did that come from? When I grow up, I want to marry a really handsome guy and la la la. You see, we're not trained to ask the question, what is at the core of this that I want to experience? So I'm like, what were you trained to think of, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was never one of those girls that dreamed about my wedding or being carried off by some Prince Charming. I was always kind of wild and independent, and I really wanted my freedom as well. But I also, society teaches us to be insecure, and it teaches us that relationships are these very shallow things. It teaches us that's where our self-worth is. So I had what I felt was really defining for me in my childhood was this real intense inner conflict of, wanting complete freedom, wanting to be entirely independent, wanting to be like Mata Hari or like some crazy, running off totally independent woman, and also really wanting to be found sexually attractive, wanting to be wanted, wanting to be loved, and not knowing what to do with the confluence of those two apparently contradicting desires.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of touch and go with guys, and I got accused of being like a flirt a lot or a tease because part of me wanted it and part of me didn't. Part of me was really afraid of commitment. So that was incredibly painful, both for me and for the people that I was in relationship with. And then over the years, I was pretty cynical. Like you were saying, I was pretty cynical, and I didn't think that I could be loved. I had really low self-esteem, and I just thought I wasn't really capable of loving anyone in that way. I felt a little separate from the human race, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I just felt different. I felt like society's crazy, and I don't belong here, but I'm not sure where I do belong. And so I never thought that would happen for me. I thought, that fairy tale thing is for, like, the popular girls or the girls that walk around saying, I'm going to marry someone rich or I'm going to marry someone. I knew I would be deadly bored in that kind of situation. And so it was a real shock to me when I did fall completely head over heels in love when I was 17. And at this point, I'd left home. I'd run away across the country. And it was like, it was like out of a cartoon. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but it was literally one of those you're walking down the street and the piano hits you on the head from the 40th floor.
Well, hold on a second. I'm laughing partly because, what you're sharing, it sounds like someone in their 30s, who've lived 30 years of life to share. And then you're like, yeah, and finally when I was 17, this piano hit me in the head, I'm like, dude, you're freaking 17. Oh my God, who figured these things out at 17?
No, that wasn't a figuring out moment. Just to be clear, that was not a figuring out moment. That was I fell in love, and that was shocking for me, but it was a really fiery relationship.
Yeah.
It was totally mutual, quote unquote, love at first sight, which now I understand. It's not love the way that I understand love now. And I think for me, so I could go on and on, but I know we have limited time, but what this is reminding me of is, Echo was talking about there's this question of what do I really want from a relationship? And I think that's so essential. But for me, what was really mind-blowing, which didn't come until I actually did go off and do the nun thing. I was a nun in Burma for a couple of years, a Buddhist nun. And one of the things that hit me on the head one day so hard there, and I remember the exact moment. It was like, I don't know what love is.
Yeah.
We're taught that we know what love is. So by 14, or, I don't know how old your daughter is, but 9-year-olds on the playground, they think, I know what love is.
Yeah.
But we don't actually know what it is. It's a concept. And so for me, one incredibly important question that I think everyone should ask that doesn't have an answer, it's a living question over a lifetime, is what is love?
Mhm. I know. I sing that song in my head. Isn't that a Tina Turner song? Whatever. Anyway.
We're like, I think so.
I'm like,
I heard this amazing story once about this couple from Japan, and basically this guy said, in my day, in my country, we didn't get married because we fell in love. We got married with the hope that we would discover what love is before we die.
Oh. I'm seeing a couple of things turning on its head. This is kind of cool. I hope I can capture it. Because it's like, I think the old model of relationship and monogamy that I grew up in, you know, I marry a guy so that I can have a man on my shoulder, on my hand, you know, so that I can have the diamond on my finger, so that, I mean, I know I'm sounding really bitter, but there's an honest truth to that. That's what marriage and monogamy was sold and packaged for me. You know, that's right. What I bought into that I didn't even know, you know?
Right. And, yeah, it's like silence. The education is very all-pervasive and very silent, and it's like wrong programming for anything. Like if you grew up with really poor diet all around you, and you just didn't know that there were whole foods or integral grains or living foods, and it's just you don't even know, and so that we suffer from that miseducation, and so much of our life is like you said, turning it on its head and saying, what is this really about? But that question is so simple, but it's one of those tip of your nose things that is not asked until either we're just suffering in so much pain and it cracks open, or we have someone that knows, really, really embodies it, guiding. And that's, you know, when Zoe and I sit down and talk about the work that we're doing and all this stuff, one of the main stakes that we have for other people is to just really transmit that like successful and fulfilling and real partnership is not haphazard or random. That there are systems. There used to be in Egypt, in Japan, in China, in India, in the old ways. And these are the ones that I know about, so I'm just sticking with those. But there used to be very like deep, nuanced, and systematized training to understand how to be in partnership, just like any other skill or technology. There used to really be in culture, in the society, a technology of partnership, and I think we've all but lost that, and it's now coming back through different modes, but it's one of these things that we're like so impoverished with, and there's an epidemic, really. It's one of those, you know, hidden epidemics, and we see about divorce rates, but it's way more than that. It's kind of the fragmentation of being able to be in partnership on many levels.
And to bring in the core of this conversation is the whole monogamy. Under that old model, monogamy is about control. It's about we're monogamous so that. Hang on a second. It's like we're monogamous so that I don't feel insecure, so that I know where you're going to be tomorrow night, the night after that, and so on and so forth. So that I lay claim on you and you lay claim on me, so that I know what you're going to be talking about and saying at that dinner party over there. That's what monogamous has felt like for me. So, and like no wonder I'm throwing up all over that word. And I don't really know what this oneness, light up oneness, monogamous thing that you guys are seeing yet, but I can just kind of see that, wow, maybe there's another way to do monogamy that could be a bit more exciting and fun and could allow the freedom part, because I'm still having issues with that. It's like monogamy does not equal freedom to me. So I'm still thinking it equals settling, it equals controlling, it equals, you know, a framed box that I had promised to live within. Anyway, let me take a break on that note.
What?
Let me take a break on that note for a second, okay?
Okay.
Mai is always looking for new angles on sex and lies to raise our consciousness. If you have ideas for a show, please contact her at mai@maivucoach.com. That's MAI at MAIVUcoach.com. Or go to her page on Facebook, Sex, Lies, and Consciousness. While there, please like her page and add your suggestions.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies. Oh, no, you can't disguise.
Welcome back. My studio manager just came running in during break and said, "This is awesome." And I'm also bringing in my most loyal fan, Peter. He's on the line.
Hi there.
Conversation.
Hey, Peter.
Hey.
And, let me just remind the audience, anyone who's listening out there, if you'd like to join in on the conversation, please call. It's 646-200-0813. 646-200-0813. We welcome your voice and your story, so join us. Okay, Zoe, you get the floor.
Well, since we're talking about freedom and within monogamous relationship, one thing that leapt up for me when you were saying that is how I actually feel so much more free when I have the safety of a committed structure. And it reminds me of how, I feel more free rock climbing when I'm in a harness. Or my father is an aesthetics professor, so sometimes we talk about art and, Apollo and Dionysus, and art can be more wild when there's a structure. The chaos is allowed when there's a structure that it can be in. So we can experiment and play with being more of ourselves, with trying more different parts, with doing all of these things and being so many different people within the relationship because there is this commitment of monogamy. So that's part of why I feel more free.
This is Peter, by the way, I muted you because your phone was noisy, so if you want to say something, just text me. The other thing is that I just thought when I was listening to you, Zoe, it made me think of, wait a minute, there's something that hasn't been spoken and it needs to be spoken really clearly here, is that both people have to be committed. Committed soul, spirit, mind, body, energy every day. It's like it's an awakened journey. Because I think what happened to a lot of marriages and monogamous relationship is that we say we're committed and then we completely fall asleep on each other.
Yes, and it's what we're committed to. I think those are hidden landmines where, one, exactly, that both people need to be committed, and then it's like, oh, yes, I'm committed to the relationship. Well, yeah, but we got to unpack that. What does that mean? What are you actually committed to within the relationship? Those, again, it's a lot. Because you're a coach, I know you understand this. All the work that one would do on the individual level, like I get to understand my values, I do some self-discovery, I know what's important to me, I know how to create plans around and honoring those core values, I know how to process what's going on in me. All of those qualities that like a coach would do personally, we really need to apply to couples. We really need to understand what our individual values are and our shared values. We have to understand how anything that's going to come up for me in my personal journey, like any place my ego is going to push against my life personally, like we could call it on the spiritual path, the path of self-discovery, that's going to show up magnified in a partnership. And one of the main things that we focus on is that we have practices we do together to really come back to our core in partnership. And then we have very established autonomous individual practices and commitments to ourselves, and to have kind of that inhale and exhale in the relationship, at least for us, and we've seen for other successful relationships, is super, super important.
And that's part of tantric relationship as well.
Yes.
It's an ancient theory.
Well, you're going to have to not speak in code. I don't know what tantric relationship really means. So
that's good. That's good. It has a lot of misunderstanding for sure. I'll just say a few things, and you can, if anything pops up for you too. Tantra, one of the best ways of defining it is that because we're talking about the light of oneness, because all is this, it all has a place. It all is included. There's nothing that's going to be suppressed or cut out. All of it is meant to be integrated into the whole. And so in that
relationship, yay!
Including what?
Sex and relationship. Yay.
Well,
including sex and relationship.
and including fights and including cancer
Yes.
and including, you know,
Yes.
Exactly.
cheating and including, you know, failure and all that stuff. We don't like to include that stuff, honey.
Exactly. That's totally it. And that's why
Until we
Tantra is
do.
really misunderstood. What's that, Zoe?
I said until we do. Until it becomes
Right.
more painful to not include it than to include it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why there's a lot of misunderstanding with Tantra, and there's kind of neo-Tantra or different ways that people are taking it in the West as well, but that's exactly right around the cancer, around the fights, and one of the best understandings in Tantra as well is that there's no ethics or morality, there's only consequence, there's only result, and so cancer can have a very positive results, right? It can have many positive results. It can bring people together. Someone that has cancer can start to live at a very rich level of life because they you know, for whatever reason that the sense of death is upon them or whatever. And with the fights as well. And the question is not so much that it's happening, but what's the relationship to it? So Zoe and I, like, just like an individual person, and I know that this is great to talk about, Mai, is just like an individual journey, there's these highs and lows, and sometimes the lows are like deep into hell, right? And sometimes the highs are really high up into blissful places. And same thing with our relationship. We've been at the verge of just total oblivion many times. And I think it's because of our understanding of what we're committed to and our values and what this relationship is really about that we've been able to kind of hit bedrock and move back from that. And every time we hit bedrock and move back, there's something that's passed through the fire. There's something that's been tempered that becomes another beautiful thing. Zoe actually shared this, that I think it's in Japan, just correct me, Zoe, if I'm wrong, that when there's an artifact, like, say, a really ancient piece of pottery, like a clay pot that gets broken, they put it back together, but they bring the pieces back together. They kind of solder the pieces back together with gold filament. And the reason is because when something's broken and then put back together, it actually has a richer story to it. And that's really what I see going on in relationship. And I really want people that are listening to understand that doesn't mean failure. Like, because something has broken in your relationship, that's not failure. We can't always see in our perspective, which is very linear and very limited, what's really going on in a bigger sense. So there's a lot of mystery there, and I think the commitment piece is very key.
Okay, you have to stop there again, because that's another one to chew on. Oh, my God.
Woo!
I know. We have to take a big, deep breath on that one, because that is not we held failure. And, like, again, that's not how a monogamous relationship has worked, has been demonstrated, right? If somebody break it by cheating, lying, or whatever, you know, it's forever shame. But the best we can do is like this faux forgiveness, to just kind of like, okay, we'll agree not to talk about that, and we'll agree not to put that in your face anymore. You know, that's like the best case scenario. And the worst case scenario, I mean, we all have probably lived that in one way or another. And it's really hard to not see it as broken, like, you broke my trust, you broke my faith in you, you broke our contract. I mean, so many divorce and
I think this brings up something really important, if I can just interject for a second, because another reason that Eka and I have such a powerful relationship, I feel, something that's been transformative for me in this relationship as opposed to relationships before I had real spiritual consciousness and awareness, is that there has to be, I think, in order for there to be success in the relationship, because no relationship is going to be without struggle and conflict, there has to be this knowledge that there has to be responsibility. Each partner has to take responsibility. I heard once somewhere that, you know, in a relationship, we're each equal. We're not equal for 50%. We're equal for 100%. I'm responsible for 100% of me, and he's responsible for 100% of him.
Yeah.
And so even if we're in a fight, and even if he really pisses me off or I really piss him off, I know that that's my shit to deal with. That's that's not on him. And we both say this a lot. We both know that if we don't work it out together, we're just going to have to work it out with someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have a lot of structures.
Because I would have run away a million times. I mean, and a lot of times, like, we'll have a conflict, and I'll realize I'm just making this up out of, like, fear of commitment. And yet because we're committed, and where in the past I might have just been like, see ya, and gone to someone else, I can work through that and open up to a much deeper level of trust and love and self-love. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's absolutely priceless.
I just want to make clear that this is not just like haphazard. We have structures that we've created, structures that we've been trained in, and these are always evolving depending on where we're at and where the challenge is and all of that. It's very organic. But there are these really simple but very effective structures in terms of communication, or in terms of being able to just say, you know what, I can't actually admit to my 100% right now, but I know that something's going on, so I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to take a walk, and we know we have certain code words and certain ways. Yeah, like sometimes we say 5 for the team, and that's because we know we're on the same side, and we just need to take. It's just not going to be good if we just stay in the same space. Yeah. So we take space. We do our meditation or dance or movement or walk around the block, and then the initial like rage or intensity drops, and underneath that is generally sadness and fear, and then I can feel my sadness, I can feel my fear. And I can really own that 100% and bring that back. And then, again, it's like the broken pottery. The conversation enriches. And we move forward with that. Oh, my God,
it gets so deep and so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unified.
But only after the anger drops and the resentment and all of that stuff. So it isn't easy. I totally get it. And
each partner has to be, and each partner has to be more committed to growth. Being right.
I'm glad to say that, because I want to bring this down to a normal 80% of relationship out there. What if your partner has just checked out? You know, like he or she rather, you know, do things on their own, not there to talk and communicate with you. They're there. They share their paycheck. They bring in the bacon, you know, and all this stuff. But they're not really there. And you've tried so hard to raise awareness. You've tried so hard to bring the conversation to the table. You've tried 1,000 ways. So it's not like the person hasn't done their part to put some gold around this breakage, you know. But
right.
The other piece just won't come around. So what does one do with that?
Do you want to take that, Zoe?
I think there's two. It's hard to speak about theoretically because it's always going to depend on the relationship. But as a broad answer, I would say there's two responses, and both could be fruitful. One is it might be time to leave. It might not be the right partner anymore. And I'm so glad you said that, because one thing I've been meaning to say to this is that while we both fully believe in committed monogamous relationships, I don't believe, and I don't think Echo believes either, in, you know, if when something's over, it's over. And not, you know, to just stay together for 30 years and be miserable just because we committed. Like, I don't think that's wise. You know, I would never suggest that. So sometimes people grow and your time together has come to a completion.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Hold on then. Here's another thing that you just turned on its head, because there's been a definition that a committed relationship means a lifetime. Because if it's not a lifetime, then it's not committed, right? And we use that as shackles and hammers to beat ourselves into poles to stay in this relationship. And if you leave,
I think we use it both ways. I think we use it both ways, because I also think a lot of people in this society leave before they've really given it a shot. So yeah, some people can feel like a failure, but I also think most divorces happen because people haven't done the prerequisite work in the first place before getting together and choosing a partner, and then they don't commit to working through the challenging part. That said, sometimes things come to completion.
Yeah.
But I think the way that one really knows that is that often those endings are much more harmonious.
Mhm.
Yeah, that can be true.
What I was gonna say is the other way is that, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Byron Katie, but there's a way that everything is perfect. And let's say you're stuck for some reason, and you're in a Muslim community society or something where you can't leave that relationship. And that might be exactly what you need to find fulfillment in your own self. With that partner might be exactly what you need if that's what you're stuck with, to wake up to yourself. And I think you could go either path. I really do. And the only error that you could make is not to commit to whatever path that you choose.
Yeah. And I just want to build one thing. Is it okay if I build one thing on that, Zoe?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. So I totally, that second part that Zoe says is really, really powerful. And in this theoretical relationship, I would really encourage that person that's with the partner that checks out to see if they are victimizing themselves in any regard. If they're blaming the relationship for some lack of fulfillment within themselves, again, this is what we were saying at the beginning, that the same kind of ego BS that tricks us in our individual relationships is the same BS that tricks us in our partnerships. We start to blame the other. We start to resent the other long before we do the work to just look under the surface in our own life and say, is there a core of lack of fulfillment? Or is there a core of me not being true to what's important to me? And like I said, long before, we're subtly or maybe not so subtly blaming the relationship or the other person. And so the work is a great way to do that. Also, Gay and Katie Hendricks, they have this thing, like if I'm with a partner who checks out, technically, on the energetic level, in terms of we get what we ask for, I'm committed to having a partner that checks out. The moment that I can stand in that, just for a moment, it's not about is it more true or less true, but just like, wow, I have a partner that checks out. Therefore, that must be connected to my commitment. If I can just drop into that for a moment, then that opens up the possibility of saying, what's that about in me? What do I really need to see here, and what type of new commitment do I want to make? So initially and essentially, we're not externalizing all of that onto our partner, like it's our partner's responsibility to be there for us. Maybe there's a lot that's under the surface there, and as Zoe said, it's hard in a theoretical sense because there's always specific aspects, but this is like doing the harder work and the work that's more nitty-gritty and more that leads you deeper into the personal shadow stuff and the stickiness within each of us, which is really important to get into, and that's the Tantra aspect as well. Like, let's go right into there and let's include that stuff as well as consciously as possible.
Well, and for me, it goes back to that same question that you started the conversation with, which is, what am I committed to here? What am I committed to experiencing in this relationship? It's not the commitment of like, well, I'm obligated, I set the vow, so I'm stuck here. But it's much like, why did I choose this person? What is it that I want to experience in myself by choosing to stay in this relationship? And that has always guided us if we know to go there. And then we could also have room for your stand, Zoe, because then you can know from the core that, hey, we're done here. I've done experiencing that, or I've done enough of that. Now I can go and experience something else.
I also think that's why it's so important to do your own practice. As Becca was saying in the beginning, to have a spiritual guide or a teacher or a psychologist or a coach or somebody who is going to be able to call you on your BS. Because it can be very hard when it really comes to shove to know what's your intuition and what's your fear.
Yeah.
But, spiritual practices really get you in touch with that, your inner knowing, that so that it doesn't feel like I'm choosing to move. It feels like I'm being moved away from this now.
Mm.
And also, it's great to have somebody on the outside who can say, you know what, every time you hit this wall, you want to go get ice cream or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They can tell you on that.
Well, and
Right.
one of the things that my ex-husband and I fell into that was really did not serve us was that at the point where we really needed help, we didn't believe that there was help out there. We actually bought into this thought, which was crazy, that nobody could understand us.
Right.
Like, duh, like now I look back and I'm like,
no one else had a failed relationship.
Right. It's
right.
like,
yeah, no one else.
right. And the arrogance of that and the resistance of that, really what got in our way. So it was just, wanted to highlight what Zoe said and just say, really, there are lots and lots and lots of people who can understand whatever situation that anybody's going through. And when you're ready, all you have to do is say, help me, and suddenly they will come. They will be all over you. So don't
Exactly.
stay alone. Yeah.
That's huge. I just appreciate that you say that. Again, I really feel like you're talking to so many people. Part of the whole thing of that if I buy in, then there's no freedom, and I all of these things. That the hopelessness that you were talking about is exactly what a lot of people come up against. And again, not just in partnership, but in their life. They're like, who's really going to understand me? My only out is, depression and suicide, or my only out is just to numb out through drugs or through entertainment.
Right,
or
to cheat. Yeah, or to having affairs and watching porn. It's like, no, there's so much more to it.
Exactly, and that's why Zoe and I are so committed to this. For me, I'll just say, I'll take a stand here. Zoe in my life has put an edge to me, has put a challenge to my life, such that I am more healthy, more happy, more productive, and more in line with what's true to me. I chose, my soul or my deep self chose someone that would not let me skate, on my BS, would call me and would call me forth. One of the biggest practices we do is admiration practice, to really that I can look at her and see all the amazing things that are in her and vice versa. And when she does that to me, for the ladies out there in heterosexual relationships, as a guy, that's one of the most attractive things, when she doesn't coddle me or see me as someone that needs to be taken care of, which of course is good. I also like that. But this piece where she sees the deep realness in me and really doesn't let me get away from that, doesn't let me turn away from that in myself. And so because of that, that's one of the reasons we do couples training and coaching in these types of events is because we want couples to really get this, that they can do this, and it will be like having a catalyst in their life that is very, very powerful. And I'd love, Zoe, if you have anything to say about that too, because I feel very strongly about that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think synergy is a real thing. And, if anyone looks to their own life, they can see that. So both of us together are really greater than the two of us separately, which is also a paradox because, of course, it's the light of one. So we're each all of it. But what it actually brought up for me is something that I think is really important and that's been coming up for me a lot lately, which is realizing that it's so easy, and this is tied to what you were saying, May, it's so easy to put glass ceilings on ourselves and to say, all relationships have challenges or nothing's perfect or, this is always going to be a ride. And it is, it's always going to be exciting. But actually, what I've noticed over our relationship is that it keeps getting smoother and smoother. And I noticed very recently that I still have some, little, very shadowy beliefs that this can't just be perfect forever. This can't be, I can't just have happiness all the time. And those beliefs themselves can create problems. But but actually it is getting greater and greater all the time, and I want to hold that for me and for everyone else, that there is a possibility that it can be fantastic all the time, both my life and my relationship. And so really expanding into that and breaking through those glass ceilings and noticing where we put those limits on ourselves, where we say, well, relationship is just like this or life is just like this. I think that's so crucial, and it's definitely blowing my mind in my own life recently.
Yeah, I have to just bring in my cynical and resignation voice here, because I'm like,
sure,
that's nice and dandy, but you are 2 years into your relationship and you don't have any kids yet, and you don't have, all these other things to deal with, and blah, 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 blah. It's so challenging to stay awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying it like that, for bringing that totally in. And of course, we can't answer that. It's all the things you said are completely true. And what I found is like, I don't know if you've ever seen a fractal image. Do you know what I'm talking about, May? Like it's these images, maybe your listeners know as well. And they're infinitely different, but they always have kind of the same pattern. It's a fractal or tessellated image.
Okay.
And it's very powerful. It's mathematical, so it's very scientific, but it's very powerful because it says there's only one thing happening. There's only one pattern that's expressing, but at every moment it's expressing differently or uniquely. Wow. Like there's always snow falling, but each snowflake is totally unique. And what I found about that is that if it's in career, if it's in relationship, I've had several near-death experiences, like very deep, intense, not always meditation-induced, like sometimes sickness-induced.
Yeah.
And so has Zoe. And I see that the pattern is the same. The pattern is exactly what you said about that cynical voice, staying awake. And what is it to stay fully present and fully accountable to that moment? And all I can hope is that when we do, have our 10-year anniversary or have kids or whatever else, is that holding to that value of staying radically accountable to the moment, staying very present, whether it be, my death or whether it be my child's birth or whether it be getting a new job or getting fired from a job or relating to my parents or anything else. Yeah. Do you know what I'm getting at there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to just to sum that up with saying to our audience, it's like we're not trying to say that this is the way to go and we're discovering something brilliant. Right. We so get the challenges of being human in relationship with each other. We get the pain. We get the hey, I don't even have time to shower in a day, let alone go and meditate and get myself straight up again. Right. I'm so busy bouncing and reacting to all the demands in my life. And yet there's something that having this conversation is reminding me of, let's go back inside and let's look at the beginning, why did I choose this relationship? What was my original reason? Let's get clean with that. What's my reason now to stay in this relationship? And is it still alive, and is it still the place that I am supposed to be? If it is, then recommit, and reignite and find each other and get help. If it's not, then recommit to yourself, and you can still be committed and still separate. That's the crazy making here, we're redefining a whole lot of concept that was passed down to us when it comes to monogamy, relationship, committed, all that stuff that our parents has done. I'm not so sure we want to repeat that.
Yes, that's so well said.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you speaking again to ritual, to structure, to having, you say, what's going to happen when you have kids and when you this and that, and we can't know, but it's sure going to help to have people all around me and structures that I put in place. I know from, other times that I've fallen into really challenging situations that will remind me, that will call me forth, that will call me on my BS, that will, that's no accident. Without that, I think that I would fall off the path probably, at least for a lot longer.
Yeah,
before I
kind
found
of
my
like,
way back.
right, like redesign our relationship with each other and our system around us, that we can help us and each other go deeper within ourselves and with each other in relationship, and then have that really honest conversation. Do you still want to be here with me? If you do, then let's redo this thing. Let's start over. Let's wipe all the other part, and now let's ask ourselves, why? Why do you want to stay here?
Yeah, and I really love that quote. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I can't remember who said it. I think it was T. Harv Eker or somebody, but
yeah, it's so out
if you're
there.
careless in your relationship, if you're not committed in relationship, where else aren't you committed?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have to bring us to a close. That was such a hot conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Is it okay to just quickly, May, say that we're doing a really solid intro to this work on the Sunday before Valentine's Day, the 12th, in Berkeley at Seventh Heaven, and they can, I think on your website or whatever, is probably links to that.
Yeah.
But this is where we're really going to start to help couples create structures around this stuff, and we're also launching a 2-on-2 training program for couples if they're interested in really, really taking this to the next level. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Awesome. You can find Eka Jyoti at www.empoweredjourney.com, and you can find Zoe Wild at zoewild.com, ZEOwild.com. That's probably a lot easier to remember. As usual, if you want to contact any of my current guests or previous guests or myself for any reason, please email me at mai@maivucoach.com, MAIVU coach.com. The next show will be next Monday, February 6th at noon Pacific time. My friend Lance and his partner Blake will talk about their journey with their sex life and their relationship. They are in a long-term open relationship that they have been able to make really colorful, dynamic, and powerful, and grow together. They're very committed to each other, but they have a twist, which is they do have open relationship with other people. And they've also interviewed 83 other couples, gay couples, who have successfully built a long-term relationship with each other. So that should be very interesting too. And then the show after that, on Monday the 13th, I'll do a special Valentine's show where I like to just have that whole time telling steamy sex stories. So if you have any steamy sex story that you'd like to share, come on, let me know, and come on the show. Either send me the story so you can remain anonymous, or you can come on and tell your story and be proud. I'd love to hear, would love to just get all of us all heated up and juiced out so that we can be ready for Valentine's Day. Actually, every day is Valentine's Day, but why not? I'll play with the crowd. All right, so thank you everybody for listening to my show, Sex, Lies, and Consciousness, the voice of healthy sex. My ultimate goal is to help us get a hold of our sex, own it, play with it, have power over it, and let it fully serve us and bring us joy and freedom. Talk to you next time. Namaste. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness. You can find Mai on Facebook by liking her page, Sex, Lies, and Consciousness, or hang out with her on Google+. To find her, type in the URL gplus.to/Maivu, gplus.to/MAIVU.